Shalom everyone, and we are in a Parashat VaYishlah, the book of Genesis, Bereshit, chapter 32, verse 4. VaYishlach Yaakov malachim lefanav. Yaakov is sending angels to Esav, his brother, and that's the name of the parasha. Okay, what is the parasha about? If you read the story itself, it's basically the nightmare of a human being. Here is Jacob coming back. Just the previous parasha, Jacob left his home, his father and mother, in Beersheba, south of Israel, and he goes to his uncle Haran, Turkish Kurdistan, to get married. Okay, he marries 4 ladies, like 2 sisters and their maids, and finally when he finishes, he comes back home. And as he approaches the promised land, he's in the borders of what is the land of Israel today, and he's sending messengers to Esav, his brother, to remind us he left Beersheba because Esav, his brother, wanted to kill him. So now he's sending messengers to Esav to tell him as follows. Ko tomru la'adoni le'esav, verse 5. So you should tell my master Esav. So כה אמר עבדך יעקב, עם לבן גרתי ואחר עדתה. So said your servant Jacob, I lived with Lavan till now, and so on. I'm not going to translate the whole thing. You can get a translation, but he's sending a message to Esav, I'm coming back home. Okay? Why did I say in nightmare? Because the result is that the messengers come back and say, we found your brother Esav. We told him that you're coming, and here he comes with 400 warriors to meet you. Warriors means he's coming to kill you. He still wants to kill you, and now he gathered an army. It's not your brother that lived at home with you 20 years ago. Now he has a whole army of 400 people of combat. Okay? The fact that your brother wants to kill you, that's a nightmare. That your brother wants to kill you, and he has a whole militia of 400 warriors, that's even more a nightmare. That's enough trouble for a lifetime. Jacob, to tell the story, Jacob is really getting afraid. He is getting ready for the war. He has no militia. He has 4 wives. He has 12 children. How is he going to deal with the army that his brother brings upon him? Okay, he's sending gifts to his brother. He's praying to God, and he's getting ready for the war. Okay, that's 3 important concepts. When you are getting ready for war, that's what you have to do. Okay, but that's not our topic. We move on. After that story, he meets Esav, and by miracle, Esav changes his mind and decides not to kill him. Okay, Esav goes back home. He already chose to live in the Red Mountains, what's known today as Petra, and the area around it, the Red Rock. Okay, and Esav already gave up by this, the promised land. He chose to live in a new country across the Dead Sea, on the other side of the Dead Sea. Jacob is now passing. While Jacob is passing, I forgot one thing. Jacob is bringing his family across the river. Then there's a dark, big angel that fights him the whole night. Somehow he gets out of it alive, but he's limping. Okay, that's one detail. Okay, now after this meeting with Esau, that's like, he almost killed us all and finished the whole thing right now. Jacob moves on and he goes to the land of Israel and he comes to the city of Shechem. Genesis chapter 33, verse 18. ויבוא יעקב שלם עיר שכם אשר בארץ כנען. So Jacob comes to the city of Shechem, Nablus. He buys a piece of land. He starts to make business over there, and then another nightmare. He has one daughter, Dinah, the daughter of Leah. That's in Genesis 34, verse 1. And Dinah makes herself friends among the girls of Shechem, and somehow the son of the leader of Shechem, his name is also Shechem, falls in love with her. He kidnaps her and he sleeps with her and she gets pregnant. Okay, this is another terrible nightmare, for father to have something that is happening to him. Okay, the sons of Jacob realize that Dinah is with Shechem, the son of the president of the city of Shechem. They come to the people of Shechem and they say, you want guys to marry our daughters, you have to be circumcised. And the people of Shechem, they decide to agree. We want to be one nation, so you have to circumcise in order to be one people with us. And they want to be one people with Jacob and his family because they see how innovative and successful they are. They want to connect to that success. They all circumcise themselves. And on the third day, when it's the most painful, the sons of Jacob raid the city of Shechem and kill everyone. And Jacob is so upset about his sons. What have you done? The whole country will be against us. And they go on the run. They leave Shechem and they're rushing south. They're coming south and on the way to Bethlehem, just before Bethlehem, Rachel, the beloved wife of Jacob, is going into labor and she gives birth to Benjamin. Meanwhile, she dies during her labor. What another nightmare, losing your beloved wife. You worked for her over 20 years. Okay, you dreamt about her so many years of your life. And now, finally she gave birth and she's dead. That's a terrible calamity. We're talking about first degree calamities that a human being can go through. Okay, they go on. And finally, after Rachel dies, they finally come to Beersheba. And then there's another story. Genesis chapter 35, verse 22. ויהי בשכון ישראל בארץ ההיא. Okay, they're coming to Migdal Eder, which is south of Bethlehem. And then Jacob hears that Reuben, his firstborn, goes in bed with Bilhah, his mistress, concubine. Okay, this doesn't sound well. And then finally, verse 36, after all of these calamities in one chapter, one parasha, verse 27, ויבוא יעקב אל יצחק אביו ממרא, קריית הארבע היא חברון. Jacob comes to his father Isaac to Hebron, and he joins the place that his father and his grandfather lived in. Okay, that's the story. And then chapter 36, it's about the story of Esau. Ve'ele toldot Esav, and these are the generations of Esav, who Edom, he's Edom, the red one. And then he speaks about the lineage of Esav and how many children he had, and finally, how from Esav, one person, came out 12 tribes, 12 nations, and their leaders are called Alufim, in modern language, generals, warlords, Alufim, warlords, or generals of fight and war. And we finish the parasha with it. Now, what a story. And that raises the question, here we have somebody so righteous as Yaakov, somebody so spiritual. He is the one of the three patriarchs, the three fathers of the nations. He is the one who really completes the whole structure of the tree of life of right, left, and center, Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet. And he deserves to have such a horrible life. You read this parasha, and that could be so depressing. Same way as you look at so many people's lives, and that could be also very depressing. Unless you look at the whole story from a different point of view. What is the need for us, asking the Zohar, to learn about the lineage of Esav and his offsprings? And the answer is as follows. Every verse in the Torah has few meanings, few ways to understand. Yes, there was the story of the development of Esav becoming a nation, here about 12 nations. They have warlords, and the nature of Esav of war and fights and conquest is one aspect of humanity. We have that aspect about competition, about fighting, about conquest, about all what Rabbi Isaac Luria is saying. This is the power of what is called the element of fire. The element of fire, either in astrology or here about that part of humanity, it's about creativity and consumption, because fire is consuming. The moment fire stops consuming, it stops to exist. Okay? The moment fire is burning, it's so creative, it's never boring to look at the bonfire. Okay? And that is basically the essence of the Western culture, Edom. It's all about consumption, it's all about creativity, it's all about conquest, generals, it's all about conquest. For centuries, it was about, for millennia, it was about physical conquest, about wars and armies, and lately in the last century, in the last few centuries, it became more about what about trade, conquering via trade and brand names like Coca-Cola, and there's so many companies that are bigger than countries by wealth, by power, by influence. That's part of that fire that is the culture of Esav. Okay, now, but that's also, says the Zohar, an aspect of every human being, because every human being has a Jacob and an Esav the way you live. You're born with the Esav, which means that is the body consciousness. The body consciousness is about me, myself, and I. Yes, there is a religion like this. The fastest growing religion right now in the world is the religion of me, myself, and I. Narcissism, hedonism, selfishness, egotism. It's all about how do I get the most while giving the least. That's about it. And that's also called the civilization, the materialistic consumption civilization. It's all about creativity, no New inventions every year, new models of cars, cell phones, houses, everything has to be reinvented in a fast-growing pace, and it's all about me. What's the problem? It's a bad business. Why? Because selfishness is so much away from the light of God that we are all after. How could it be selfish and enlightened? Impossible. I never met happy, selfish people, which means that's not a surprise when you know these rules that those countries who make the most money, okay, they also have the highest level of consumption of antidepressants or all kinds of stuff around depression and lack of self-love. Okay, it's very hard to be satisfied. You're never satisfied when you're selfish. Impossible. Okay, so when we are talking about Jacob and Esau, we're talking about the fight, says the Zohar, that every human being has within himself. You're born with Esau, you're born with a body. The body needs to consume, to eat, to accumulate materials, stuff, acquisitions, properties, whatever. That's a need. You die without it. Okay? You cannot really continue life if you can't provide to a family and raise another family. Your DNA will cease to exist. That will be the end of the production line. Okay? So, because we need to produce, okay, that's our calling from our DNA natural thing, we need to accumulate money, power, assets, and so on. That's normal. The point is, if that's the only thing we do, we have a problem. We forget that we all have a Jacob. And a Jacob is the real true soul beneath, inside the body. You cannot see the soul, but without the soul, the body is dead. Without the soul, your business is dead. Without the soul, your life is dead. You don't have a real family, you don't have a real community, you don't have real goals. It's all about accumulation of material, empty, void goals. So, as long as you don't recognize that war that every person has within, between his own Esau and his own Jacob, without realizing that we have two forces fighting inside us ongoingly. And that was a story in Parashat Toldot, when Rivka is pregnant and she has twins, and they fight against each other in her womb. And then she realizes that these two are representing two universal forces that are going to be fighting with each other all the time. And the question is, how did the physical, materialistic, elusive consciousness, the evil inclination, how was that created? And the Zohar is teaching us that the story in the end of the Parasha is the secret of all of that. And it's called the Kings of Edom. Why? It says over there, it looks like a redundant story. Why would the Torah tell us this insignificant story? And the answer is it's not insignificant. Where it says, towards the end of the parasha, chapter 36, verse 31. That's one of the most important paragraphs, according to the Zohar, and the Arizal, Rabbi Ezekloria, and all the great Kabbalists, one of the most important texts in the whole Torah. ואלה המלכים אשר מלכו בארץ אדום לפני מלוך מלך לבני ישראל. And those are the kings that reigned in the land of Edom before there was a king to Israel. וימלוך באדום בלה בן באור, and Bela ben Beor became the king in the land of Edom. Veshem Iro Dinhava, and the name of his city, Dinhava. Vayamot Bala, Vayimloch Tachtav Yovav ben Zerach Mibatzra. And Bela died, and instead of him, the king was crowned Yovav, son of Zerach from Batzra. And it goes like this. And why do we need, all of them asking, why do we need to know the city? Just you can say these are the names of the kings and just a list of the names. And the Zohar is teaching us there's something really important behind it. It's the whole explanation how our universe is constructed. Why? We have to understand that when the universe is being created, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. And then God said, let there be light. And there was a light. And God saw that it was good. And there was a night, there was a day, one day. Everything was one, the light of the Creator and the vessels, the souls of humanity. That was the night. Because the souls of humanity, they are darker than the light. Because they're recipients, they're not givers of light. So the vessels, the souls of humanity were fulfilled with that light, with that endless light, and everything was one. Now there's a problem. What the Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, from Italy, 18th century, teaches that the Talmud is teaching the one who eats for free the food of somebody else, after a while he won't be able to look in the face of the person that feeds him. Which means, translation, people cannot stand being inferior, which means every person would prefer to give charity than receiving one. And the moment you receive charity ongoingly, and it looks like it's going to be forever, this is extremely uncomfortable. And therefore, because we were created in the image of God, and that's why we need to be independent and to be sharing, we could not stand the fact that we were created in the perfect state. There's nothing to create and no one to give to. And therefore, the world had to fall apart, so we have a free will. How did that happen? How, if there is endless light surrounding us and within us, how did that happen that there's darkness? That allows, by the way, free will. How did that happen? The story of the kings of Edom. And then the Kabbalists explain the first a whole universe had to be created, and that was called Olam Kadmon, the primordial universe. It was created in a perfect state, and then few more worlds started to be created, and they were created also in a perfect state. But in each universe that was created, there was a little bit less vessel, but the light stayed endless. So as the vessel became weaker and weaker in the process, I want to explain why, it's not a place, there was a stage that there were vessels who were too small to be able to hold on to the light. And that's what it says, the 7 kings of Edom. They represented the vessel of the creation. And each one of them, he reigned, which means he got the light of the Creator, and then he died, which means he exploded and broke into many pieces. And those 7 worlds are represented by the 7 kings of Edom. Those 7 broken kings are basically the concept that is called the broken vessels. What's the broken vessel? The moment those vessels were broken, they became incomplete, dark. And they are the source of what we know as selfish desires, or in another language that is more common, the evil inclination that is in every human body. Those vessels broke into pieces, and they got, the Kabbalists teach us, they got mixed up with the original vessels of full light. And that created a universe that is a mixture. It is patches of good and evil everywhere you go. That allows each one of us the free will, which means you can connect to pleasures coming from the broken vessels, which means the pleasure to kill, the pleasure to rob, to steal, to cheat. People do that because they get pleasure. Why? How come somebody get pleasure for something evil? Because of the broken vessels. The light that came to the kings of Edom, that light sunk into those broken vessels. That's called the broken vessel. It's also the lost sparks of holiness. So every time we overcome our negativity, our selfishness, our fears, anxieties, hatred, greed, and we excel and we evolve to a higher frequency of unconditional love, acceptance, tolerance, unity, and wisdom. Instead, we basically, in that case, we basically excel and evolve, and we rise. And when we rise, we pull with us one lost spark from the broken vessels. And that's called the process of tikkun of all of humanity. So every time we do something good instead of something evil, every time the good overcomes in our behavior and feelings over the negativity and all the what we said, the evil inclination, we not just excel and rise, we also pull one lost spark from the broken vessels into the world of tikkun. When humanity complete pulling all of these lost sparks, then humanity can move to the next stage, which is the stage of redemption. Meanwhile, we are in the world of tikkun, and that means we'll always have to see broken vessel, which means injustice, intolerance, evil, hatred, pessimism, egotism, violence. All of those, they get their power from the broken vessels. And every time we overcome, every time we hit bottom by feeling that we are in a dark place of negativity, and we stop that addiction to negativity, and we rise to a world of faith, certainty in the light of the Creator, love unconditionally. When we excel, when we overcome the negativity and we still inject ourselves with positivity, we create another step of tikkun for all of humanity, because we pull, we save, we correct one spark from the broken vessels. Therefore, that on one hand gives us the free will because when we enjoy doing terrible stuff, selfish stuff, if we didn't enjoy it, how would there be a free will? If every time we perform any kind of a sin or transgression and we immediately feel horrible about it, would we have free will? Of course not. There are lost sparks in the broken vessels, and those lost sparks, they give the feeling of fulfillment when we make a transgression, when we follow our evil inclination. Okay, however, every time we do that, we fall deeper. That's like the seduction. That's the PR of the or advertisement system of the dark side. Come, come, come. You be selfish and you can enjoy. How long this joy lasts? 10 minutes, half an hour, one night, and then there's always the morning after. It's the high and the buy. That is connecting to the broken vessel. But it's also when somebody is doing a good deed for a selfish reason. If you do it from a selfish reason, you're not supposed to enjoy it. You do enjoy it. Why? You enjoy it because of the light of the broken vessels. It allows you to enjoy a selfish action, although it looks like it's a good one. You know, somebody made his fortune out of drugs and theft and forgery. Now you want to be accepted to the community, so you build a synagogue, you build an orphanage, you donate to the JCC, and you donate to Israel, and you become a really honorable person. And everywhere you go, people respect you. Okay? Is that wrong? So, teachers tell us, in a way it's wrong. However, you cannot deny that when that person is giving to real needs and it creates real light, that light, he didn't mean that, but that light, because there's a rule, the effect always must be included in the cause. So if I am a cause for someone else's revelation of light, that light must be flowing through me. I want it or not. When I give charity, when I help other people, in spite the fact that I'm doing it selfishly, the light that is being revealed cleanses my negativity. Why? These are the lights of the broken vessels, which means it allows me to do something selfish and enjoy it, even though it's not perfect yet. But I moved that spark of light a little bit farther, closer to the tikkun. And that allows us not just to do bad things and enjoy it, it allows us to do good things, but not always in a decent way, which means we do it as a marketing thing. Is that wrong? No. A lot of people think, no, either you do it 100% perfect or you don't do it. That's not the concept. Not in Kabbalah, not in Judaism. The concept is, since we are all mixture of good and evil, it will take you a long time to become perfectly pure. Till you come to a place that your charity is really from a real positive, perfect, pure source, that will take you a lifetime of exercising, which means meanwhile you give and your ego enjoys it, but you know what? That's better than spending money on drugs or on gambling, because when you give to others and you feel good about yourself, at least when you give to the needy, somebody else get the benefit and you get instead, by the laws of cause and effect, the benefit they got, it goes through you. And that, says the Zohar, cleanses us. So we don't need to be in a perfect, clear, pure intention to do something good. A, we can't. B, how would you be able to do that? You have to start from something and you get closer and closer. And that's called the system of the kings of Edom that died. Now, after we understand that, we understand that since Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were the prototype of the spiritual human being, What we read about him is not a gossip. It's not a myth. And it's not a saga like, like it is a telenovela or soap opera. It is basically laying the rules of our own success. So yes, Jacob is sending the messengers to his brother Esau that he's coming. And the Zohar is asking a very simple question. That's in the Zohar, Hasulam, verse 22 of Parashat VaYishlah. אמר רבי יהודה, מה יחם יעקב דשדר לו לעשיו? ואמר אם לבן גרתי וכי מה עבד בשליחותי ידי עשיו? מילדה. לבן הארמי קלי אזל בעלמא, דלהבה ברנש דשזב מיני דהוא והחרש בחורשין ורב בקוסמין. Okay, the first thing is, why did Esau, let's start it from this way. Why, we'll read before verse 15. וישלח יעקב מלאכים, אמר רבי אבא וכי עמי יתאר יהיו לגבי דעשיו. ותב אבל אל ישתוקי מיני. אלא אמר יעקב ידענה דעשיו חייש לי להיקרא דאבא, ולעלם לה ארגז קמי, והידענה, הואיל ואבא קיים, לה מסתפנה מיני. אבל אשתא דאבא קיים, באינה להתפייס עמי. מיד וישלח יעקב מלאכים לפניו. Jacob makes an assumption, and the assumption is, as long as my father Isaac, Yitzchak, is alive, Esau that always respected my father, our father, he will never kill me while my father is still alive. And I want to be done with it right now. Wrong assumption. However, wrong assumption. Here comes Esau with 400 warriors to kill, to murder his brother, his nieces and nephews, his sisters-in-law. Okay, he's still going to do that. He has the whole intention. How do you know? You don't bring 400 people of a militia to meet your brother. What for? You can come by yourself. You can come with 3 men, as bodyguards. Well, what's the story? And the answer is very simple. Look at the story. Jacob did not figure it out logically properly. However, he did not procrastinate. He said, if I'm coming back to the promised land, the reason I went in the first place is because my brother wanted to kill me. So I'm not going to procrastinate. I'm going to deal with this the moment I come back and enter the boundaries of the promised land. Why? Because I don't want to live under the fear that any moment Esau can come with his army and kill us. That's not a life. I have to deal with this and you know what? He made a logical wrong assumption, according to that. But the result was that when he comes to the promised land, he fixes the story with Esau. You cannot logically understand how did he do that. He used a whole strategy that we learn from that. That yes, he could come to Esau and say, what do you want? I didn't steal your birthright. You sold it to me. Okay, but you know what? Being right is not going to settle the issue. You have to be smarter than that. Being right in politics, in relations among countries, among families, societies, companies, nobody cares about what's right. It's all about interest. It's all about Esau's selfish desires. So you have to realize that. Say, but God, I am right. They're wrong. It's not fair. You cannot run a life with the fair, not fair issue. You just become an eternal victim. So Jacob says, I do not have a militia. I don't have an army. He has an army. I have to outsmart him. So the Zohar says The first thing, he sent him the messengers, and they tell him, A, I'm your slave, you are the master. I'm your slave, you are the master. And he sends Esau more and more gifts. He sends him gifts. If you read the list of the camels, the cows, the sheep, the goats he's sending, this is with today's number, this is like it's worth millions of dollars. What he sent with today's number, so that was a fortune. And he plays a game that when you're weak, you can play games like this. On one hand, he sends all of these gifts, and he tells his brother, I'm sorry, I apologize, I wronged you, I want to apologize, I want you to love me, I love you, here, take the gifts. And then when you give gifts, something moves, something changes when you give gifts. But that's not enough, because in the Middle East, when you just give, they kill you and take the whole thing. Giving is not enough. Within the giving, he's also showing power, real power. What's the power? He says, I am coming from Lavan. And the Zohar says every person in the area, in the whole Levant of those days, knew that Lavan was the most vicious, powerful sorcerer in the neighborhood. Anyone who had to deal with Lavan either was killed or robbed or stayed without nothing. So that was Lavan. He was selfish, he was powerful, he was ruthless, and everybody knew that. When Jacob is saying to Esau, you are the master, I am the slave, he's humiliating himself. When he's showing him so much love by giving him so many, like millions worth of gifts, a fortune. At the same time he's saying, I became very rich living with Lavan, and I came now with this to give you gifts. What does Esau think? On one hand, he's kind of like, who doesn't like gifts and gifts of such magnitude and power? On the other hand, that's a show of power. Nobody took anything from Lavan. This guy, not just he came alive from Lavan, he's so rich, like he can't even imagine. This rich is legendary, and he's giving me just gifts. His fortune is much bigger. Of course he didn't give everything he had. How did he do that? And Jacob hints that. He says, I have an ox, a donkey, and so on. You didn't have ox, you have oxen, donkeys. Why ox and a donkey, a slave and a maidservant? And as Zohar says, they were code names for levels of witchcraft. So the text said, I want to humiliate myself in front of you. I want to ask for your forgiveness. I want just to make you happy. I want you to love me. I need your recognition, and so on. And I'm like, I'll kiss your feet. But the subtext said, I am very, very powerful. Be careful. This is a big wisdom. You don't just give gifts, because why people behave by their interest. So if you give them gifts, they wait till you finish giving the gifts and then they kill you. Or they kill you anyway and take everything you have. Why wouldn't they? But if you show them power bigger than theirs, they start thinking, and you knock them out of their belief system. Now there's a place for negotiation. Okay? Jacob does not trust that. He gets ready for a war, and he has plan A and plan B, and he prays. And we learn a lot about this parasha, about the prayer, the power of the prayer. That you ask is asking God to help him. How? He doesn't tell God how to help him. Many times we pray and we tell God how to help us. If you continue to think like you were thinking, you continue to get what you're getting. So why are you praying? If you already know what's good for you, why are you praying? Why God doesn't know what's good for you? Why? If you know what's good for you, why are you not getting it? If you're not getting it, it means you are somewhere in the wrong place mentally. So what do you have to pray for? To get closer to Him. And when you get closer to Him, you'll know what to do. Here, Jacob did not know. He thought that Esau will never kill him because Isaac is still alive. Wrong. So he's praying to be in the right place. So if you think about this story and the miracle that finally, yes, Jacob bows down to Esau. He humiliates himself. But at that moment, Esau becomes proud and he's losing his thinking. And the Zohar says Esau knew what's happening, what he's losing when Jacob is bowing down to him and he gets the pride. He will kill himself not to get to that place. Because Jacob won two things. One, during this story, he's wrestling with the angel. He is wrestling with the angel and he's almost defeated. He comes out limping out of it. You could look at this disaster, but he's being named Israel. Wrestling with the angel of darkness, the angel of Esav, was much more than wrestling. It was really the right of way to become what he was supposed to be. He becomes the master, the chariot of all spiritual work. And that's why his name was changed by the angel to Israel. You look at the word Israel. You have the letter Aleph, that is for Abraham. You have the letter Sin for Sarah. You have Yud for Yitzchak. You have Reish for Rivka. You have Yud for Yaakov, Reish for Rachel, and Lamed for Leah. Israel is the initials of all. Israel is the combination of all of them. If Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and their wives were chariots for Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferet, right now Israel is beyond Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferet. It is Da'at. It is right now the ability to overcome and the chariot of overcoming anything of this physical world limitation. He becomes so, yes, he went to terrible stuff, but he became Israel. Jacob is from the root Akev. Akev means the heel. The heel stands on the ground. Jacob is on earth. Israel is the letters of Li Rosh, the head. The head is mine. Now he's at the head, he's not the heel anymore. Okay, he's not holding the heel of Esau. He's now overpowering Esau because Esau lost everything he had when he became proud, as Jacob is bound down to him. When he became mixed up because he didn't know. Should I just raid that person and take everything he has? Or should I be afraid because he has powers? How did he get out of Lavan? Alive. And now he's with a whole big family and so much fortune. He must be a bigger sorcerer than Lavan. You need, when you want to negotiate, you have to remember. On one hand, you have to show kindness and love and giving. On the other hand, you have to show strength. Otherwise, why should the other side consider your needs? Remember that. So, the first round in this parasha, Jacob is winning. Why? Because the result, he came to the promised land and Esau was never a problem since that moment. Mission achieved. Not the way he planned, but mission accomplished. That's one thing. People don't realize that. Now, living without the threat of Esau for the rest of his life in the land of Israel, this is a big thing. And he achieved that in a very short time. That's one thing. Okay? How do we know? We see it when it says very clearly. Okay, that's chapter 33, verse 18. Vayavo Yaakov Shalem ir Shechem. And Jacob comes to Shechem Shalem. Shalem means complete, a whole. He reached, finally, a true level of completion. This is not something simple. The winning, the duel with Esau, all of that game that he had, he reached completion. And that's a big, big thing. Then comes the terrible story with Dinah in Shechem. He can't stay in Shechem. He runs away out from Shechem. And in the way, Rachel dies. But remember, what happens when Rachel dies, and the whole Zohar goes into another explanation. The moment Binyamin was born, Jacob accomplished the whole chariot of controlling the 12 signs of the zodiac. Binyamin was number 12, son number 12. Why did Yaakov leave Haran when Rachel was pregnant? He wanted the chariot to be completed in the promised land. So, when Benjamin is born, you have now 12 sons, so Jacob accomplished another huge accomplishment. The 12 tribes of Israel, the system, which is a physical system that is a chariot for the great divine plan of the creation, the 12 signs of the zodiac. Now he has accomplished that too. More than that. Now, when he was Jacob, his soulmate was Rachel. Now he is Israel. Jacob and Israel are concepts of Zeranpin and Malchut, the male and female in this physical reality, but it's the spiritual dimension of the physical reality. Jacob and Rachel. The moment he became Israel and the 12 tribes are finished, completed, now it's a time for the next step. He is now Israel. His soulmate is Leah. Rachel completed her duty on this physical earth. She is moving now to become the chariot of the Shekhinah. Now that the 12 tribes system is completed, she can become the representative, the chariot of the Shekhinah, which means the connection between being in a physical world, in a physical life, with all its lies, with all its limitations, and still accomplish spirituality. This is Rachel. This is the concept. Now she is a concept. It's not her time anymore to be a physical human being. So she is upgraded for the vehicle of the Shekhinah, the divine presence. And Jacob is right now becoming Israel. Israel, the soulmate of Israel, is Leah. Rachel symbolizes the physical, visible world. Leah symbolizes the hidden, metaphysical realm. That's why Rachel is buried on the road. Why? Jacob could not just simply rush forward and go to Hebron and bury Rachel in Hebron. Why burying her on the road? Because that's what she is. She's on the road. She is the one that symbolizes the help. The people are on the road in the physical world, where everybody passes by, where everything is open and exposed, that's the help. That's a consciousness of divine spirituality in this physical world. That is Rachel. That's her place. That's why she's buried there till today, on the highway, where everybody passes by. So, but Yaakov moves up. He's Israel, his soulmate is Leah. Both are buried where? In the Machpelah. In a hidden cave, within a hidden cave that is beyond, this is the hidden level. So, both now Israel and Leah, and there is a concept that is called the unity, the zivug of Rachel and Yaakov. That's in the spiritual unity in the physical world, but the spiritual unity of Israel and Leah, that's in the upper metaphysical world. These are all concepts. So, yes, there were so many disasters, horrible, happening in this parasha. At the same time, if you really open your eyes, you realize how many accomplishments Jacob had arrived to during this parasha, in spite and maybe thanks to all the challenges. Also, Dinah, yes, she was raped. The result was she could not raise her daughter at home because the tribes were sure that this girl is contaminated. So the girl was lost. Later on, she appears in Egypt, and Joseph marries her in Egypt. Two more tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim, that later on they complete the system of 12 tribes when Levi is becoming the holy tribe of the tabernacle work. And now you need to complete 12. Here there's a 12, thanks to the story of Dinah. All of it is to tell us that it's all about our consciousness, it's all about our faith in the good, and it's all about knowing we're not here to experience easy, comfortable life without challenges. We're here to turn the darkness into light. We're here to turn all of those bitter, troublesome failures or whatever negativity. We're here to fix, correct these lost sparks so we can become godly again. So it doesn't matter how terrible the disaster is. What's important is how do we react to it? Can we overcome the pain? Can we overcome the feeling of victim? Can we overcome all of those low emotions and we connect to the divinity? You seeing that as this is another opportunity for us to rise so fast, so powerfully, so we can become the correction of humanity and ourselves, and now we can pick the fruits of our work by that greatness that appears only through those dark moments. Thank you so much, and enjoy your work today and this week.